and touch wood, I'm feeling good, or at least as good as you can when running 100-mile weeks. Hello and welcome. So, week 9 and the start of the final 4-week block of training before the taper for the Berlin Marathon. The week started on a bit of a low following my poor performance at the Newark Half Marathon. On Monday I was feeling a bit down about it. In every marathon training cycle up till now, I've always set a big half marathon PB at this point. It's a nice confidence boost, proving that the training's working and things are going well. So to not set a fast time, or even to get anywhere near one, was rather disappointing. I was also a little concerned it was a sign of more serious fatigue. I actually felt pretty good on my morning recovery. The legs felt good all things considered, except for a bit of tightness on the top of my left foot, which I think was caused by the new Nike Vaporfly Next Percents. They have a very strange upper, a sort of plasticky material that's quite tight and doesn't have much give, so I think I just tied the shoes a little too tight. However, through the day I felt very tired, so I decided to drop the afternoon run and instead console myself with pizza and chocolate. Hopefully that would help me reset for the next day. I slept really well and woke up feeling much better. I set out on my usual easy canal route, but was prepared to cut things short if things didn't feel right. However, it was a lovely morning and I felt really good, so I knocked out the whole 12 miles that was originally on the plan at an average pace of 7:19 per mile. This was exactly what I needed and it really perked me up. Perhaps Sunday was a blip after all. I was a little ploddy on my afternoon run, as can often be the case, but it was fine and the tightness in my foot was also reducing, so that was reassuring. As Tuesday went well, I decided I'd attempt the planned workout on Wednesday, but again I'd cut it short if I felt I needed to. The session was 4 by 15 minutes at marathon pace with 3 minutes recovery. The first 2 blocks went well, so I cracked on and completed the entire session. I averaged 6:18, 6:19, 6:17 and 6:18 for the efforts. A touch slower than my marathon pace on the 20 by 1 mile session I did a week or two back. However, I was in the Adidas Adios instead of the Nike Vaporflies. It was also a touch breezy, so overall I was really happy with the session, especially given what happened on Sunday. The pace and heart rate matched pretty closely to when I did the session prior to Manchester, but it was a much windier day this time, so that bodes well. I normally stick to just one run on Wednesday, as it's often a big session. However, as I was feeling good, I decided I'd run the recovery run I missed on Monday. The legs felt a bit flat to begin with, but came back to me through the run, so I was glad I did it. It was another easy run on Thursday, 11 miles this time, and remarkably similar to Tuesday's with an average pace of 7:20 per mile. The legs felt surprisingly good after the previous day's workout, and the heart rate was nice and low. Shout out to Chris, a viewer who I bumped into on this run and had a quick chat to. He's also running Berlin, so good luck with your training, Chris, and I hope the race goes well. The afternoon recovery also went pretty well. It felt nice and relaxed despite the windy conditions. It was back to the medium long runs on Friday, with another 16 miles, averaging 6:51 per mile pace. The legs felt strong, and it was one of the more enjoyable medium long runs I've done lately. It was pretty breezy yet again, so I was pleased with the pace, and I just about managed to avoid the rain. It literally started drizzling as I got to my front door. No such luck for the afternoon recovery, where I got a bit of a drenching. However, the run felt good and the heart rate was nice and low, so that's the main thing. Saturday's easy run started out nice and sunny. However, the dark clouds gathered throughout the first half of the run, and I got an absolute soaking through the second half. I felt a bit tired to begin with. The legs were fine, just generally tired. However, the rain helped wake me up, and the overall pace of 7:18 per mile was good, although I've no doubt that wanting to get home and out of the rain helped with that. Pleasingly, the legs felt really good for the rest of the day, which is always good on the day before a really big long run. On Sunday, I did a nutrition rehearsal during my 24-mile long run. This is where you try and practice as closely as possible how you'll fuel your marathon. I find this really helpful, particularly as someone who generally only runs on an empty stomach. It's important not to try anything new on race day, so practicing this a few times ahead of the marathon can really help. And if you're someone that struggles with taking fuel on, practicing like this can help the stomach handle it better, in the same way that running lots helps the legs cope with the miles better. I woke up 2 hours before I planned to start the run and had my usual pre-race breakfast of 2 bagels with jam. I then went back to sleep for an hour or so, then got up and had my usual double espresso and then 500 millilitres of Morten Drink Mix 320. This is a sports drink that supposedly uses hydrogel to help you take on board carbohydrates without it causing stomach issues. Once out on the road, I then aim to take on a Morten Gel 100 every 20 to 25 minutes or so. That might sound like a lot, but I worked with a sports dietitian last year as part of a magazine feature I was in. She recommended this frequency for me, as basically, the faster you're running during a marathon, the quicker you're burning through your carbohydrate stores. I was never much of a believer in gels and other fueling during a marathon prior to Manchester. However, at Manchester, when I used gels properly for the first time, I had my best ever marathon. I slowed very little during the final 6 miles. My slowest mile was just 7 seconds off my average pace, so it's fair to say I'm now a convert to gels. Anyway, the nutrition side of things went well, and my stomach felt settled throughout the run. The Morten gels are quite thick. It reminded me of eating jelly when I was a kid. That makes them quite easy to consume while running, as you can take a mouthful, hold it in the side of your mouth while you breathe, and then swallow. You don't get any of the spillage or mess you often get with other more liquidy gels. The run itself also went really well. My legs felt really strong for the first 18 miles or so. I'm not sure if that's because I was more fueled than normal, but either way it felt good. They obviously tired towards the end, and by the end of the 24 miles they felt pretty battered, but no more than I'd expect for that kind of run. It was a breezy day again, so I was really pleased with an average pace of 6:48 per mile. After runs like this, I'm reminded that 2.5 years ago I hadn't even run a sub-3 marathon, and now I can produce that pace on a solo, steady effort long run. It's almost tempting to run the extra 2.2 miles, but I know there's very little to gain from that, and it could potentially compromise my next week of training, so I happily stopped. Although my legs felt fairly beaten up immediately after, I was quite pleased how they felt later on in the day. We went out on a family walk, and I was happily able to jog about with my 2-year-old nephew on my shoulders without any problems. From what I remember, I don't think I could have managed that after a long run during my Manchester build-up, so I think that shows that my legs are getting more and more used to the mileage. So, after a rocky start, this week has actually turned out pretty well. 115 miles in the bank, a touch under the originally planned 120, but still plenty. Most importantly, I felt good, and my paces have shown that Sunday really was just a blip and not a sign of deeper fatigue. It was really reassuring to be able to crack on, and has helped put Newark firmly in the rearview mirror. I've now got 3 more big weeks of training before the 3-week taper for Berlin begins. This includes some monster sessions, like next week's 20 by a K from the NAZ Elite plans. It's a little daunting, but I'm really enjoying the grind at the moment, and touch wood I'm feeling good, or at least as good as you can when running 100-mile weeks. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel to follow my journey towards the Berlin Marathon. And if you have any questions or anything you'd like me to cover in future videos, please leave a comment below. Cheers!